now that we're in the bear market and resources are scarce, right? Number isn't just going up. There's not infinite abundance and wealth for everybody anymore. It does. You are getting the sense that we're devolving into this. I don't want to say devolving, but we're entering this era of like intense politicking, and the two coins that are really duking it out are ETH and BTC. Like we mentioned earlier, it's kind of like it's like a game of coins.
Welcome to another episode of the Alfalfa podcast. Three of us are here today. We miss you, Nick. Nick is off, and are we allowed to talk about his location? Barcelona, one of my favorite cities in the world.
Oh, I forgot. So yeah. I was going to keep the
secret. You don't know where Nick is right now.
Well, I do now.
Okay.
I didn't until you reminded me. My mind is a sieve right now.
Oh my God.
We'll talk about that later.
He's on a great little European expedition. Eric is still in Jackson. Hi, Eric.
What's up, guys?
Dude.
It's been a few days since I've seen you. I'm still in Jackson, and man, what a weekend we had.
Oh my God.
Big weekend for me. You guys were there to support, and Armand was there to get us married. Our efficient, our lovely, wonderful efficient, who everyone just said glowing things about the way you handled that ceremony, man. You knocked it out of the park.
Good.
Thank you.
Good Yelp reviews.
Yeah, great Yelp reviews, man.
I'm more of a Google reviews guy now, so yeah.
Oh, this was so fun. It was like such a perfect little gathering. It was like everything we dreamed of. Thank you for your wonderful contribution getting us actually married.
Oh, man.
It was amazing,
dude. My honor. It was amazing. It was probably one of the best weeks I've had all year, and getting to marry you guys was definitely a highlight of a lifetime. I was absolutely terrified. I'm not gonna lie. I was so nervous before, but then you being nervous right before too made me less nervous. So it's like, all right.
When I cried immediately.
Oh my God, this guy! You could see him from there, right?
I knew he was gonna cry.
Oh, he was just
zero
really emotional.
Oh, I lost it. I saw Mina just walk out the door and down the aisle, and I just lost it immediately.
It was very touching.
And then I had told you guys that I hadn't prepared my vows. I was just going to wing it. I hadn't prepared my welcome, thank you speech or anything, and just winged that. I think in hindsight, I probably should have prepared a little more.
You did great.
I had a lot more that I wanted to say, and it kind of got lost. My emotions were high, but what a perfect weekend.
No, it was so beautiful, man. Worked out amazingly, beautiful. And Jackson is an absolutely incredible place.
Dude, and shout out to the folks in the Discord. Everyone was so nice to me, wishing me like a happy wedding day. That really meant a lot. That was awesome.
I felt like they were at the wedding with us. It was fun.
I know. Honestly, it's starting to become like as if we're just saying it just to say it. I really want to make it clear that this is like a genuine feeling.
Yeah, it's best Discord
that this
ever.
Discord and this community is literally like an extension of my life, man. Like it's just like a part of my life now. I can't even Erica just knows what I'm doing all the time now. She's like, if you're on your phone, because I know you don't like being on your phone, it's generally because you're on Discord. So yeah, shout out to the Alfalfa Discord community. Nick is in Barcelona. We said that. Let's kick off with an Alfalfa round then.
Yeah, let's get some meat and potatoes. Do you want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I spent all week basically selling ETH. I think I've been selling ETH for the last 48 hours.
How come when you sell, I buy? I don't understand this. That's bad. That's not good for me.
I don't know. It's fine. I mean, I'm
I guess we're on totally different.
I'm typically go between being like all cash and way over leveraged.
We're playing very different games.
Yeah, I'm a very binary dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, having a lot of ETH in a million wallets, like all on chain and in like STETH and on Aave and your bar, it's awful. You got to unwind 20 positions. You got to click the freaking hardware wallet and make all the, oh God, it takes so long to do anything. I sometimes wish I just had everything terrible. On FTX and I just click the sell button and go outside, just market sell, get on with my life. So yeah, I mean, I was expecting bad things after the meeting today. So I was trying to prep for that. Yeah. I got a little greedy. I was thinking we were going to get a little bit of a bounce before the meeting for me to sell into. And then I kind of realized oh, this bounce is not happening. And I just started like unloading lower and lower and lower. And yeah, so it's weird because I still lost a lot of money today because I didn't sell everything, but I feel really good. You know, I'm like
Mhm.
happy. I'm like, oh, psychology is a funny thing. Like, oh, look at all this other money I didn't lose.
Right.
Feel great. But yeah, I'm kind of just down to I don't care about whatever spot bags, you know, just the long term
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah. You got a forever, like a little bit of a forever hold
yeah,
allocation.
sitting on a nice pile of cash, and it feels nice to just not be in the market. I've been in the market like hard for a while up until like merge. I started de-risking a little before the merge and told myself I would sell the news of the merge, but the sell the news happened so quickly.
So
Like
quickly.
I didn't think it was going to be an instantaneous sell the news. I thought it was going to be like a
Gradual.
tomorrow or a little scam
Yeah.
pump type sell the news, and it was not. It was just immediate down only, and it was kind of rough. So I executed that very poorly. But yeah, now I'm here and plotting my next moves. So I'll let you guys know what I think.
Okay.
Nice.
EJ?
Yeah. Steven, I think to Armand's point, you're selling your ETH and I'm buying. Well,
Yeah, buy club.
I'm a forced buyer. I'm a forced buyer because my puts that I sold are being put to me now,
Mm.
which is good, which is fine. It's like that was by design. I didn't go too crazy at these levels, but I'm going to continue selling puts, and that's going to be my version of DCAing. So like the DCA machine is engaged, and we're going to be buying and turning that into sort of like the forever long, because the merge did happen and it was successful. You guys did a great job on the live merge. I had to bounce out of there very quickly, but everything seemed to go very well. So like ETH is probably the asset that I've like been most intrigued by in my entire life. So I want to accumulate more ETH, and I think maybe now is not the exact right time, but I've been like holding cash this entire like leg down from like 3,000 ETH. So like I need to buy eventually. So I'm gonna start now, and I'll continue uh, even if we go lower. Be happy,
Hell
happy
yeah.
accumulating.
Hell yeah. Well, I just want to clarify, I did not really do anything on that ETH merge live stream other than show my taint. So
Dude, that's the best photo that we've ever taken in our entire life.
so for people that don't know, which I think most do, but Eric and I did a hike in Jackson,
Wow.
and
What a
the
hike, though.
day of the ETH merge, and then we were doing the live stream that night, and then David was like, "Hey guys, I want to jump on your live stream." Then our live stream didn't work, so he's like, "I'll just live stream it to the Bankless YouTube." So then we got like 7,000 people on, and I had this plan. Eric and I had talked about it because we laughed our asses off that day. I did a taint tanning photo at the top of the mountain.
Right
The
at the base of the Grand Teton at Delta Lake. It's so beautiful.
That's
And
such a
there's like
majestic
Armand in
photo. Yeah.
foreground
I
with his
haven't
legs
laughed
spread up in the air.
that hard in so long. Eric took a photo that if I wasn't in would be like a Nat Geo award winning photo. Like literally, it was just absolutely beautiful. And then I screen shared during the live stream. So that was my contribution to the live stream. I like just kicking back sometimes when you guys are being, ETH permables and talking to David. It's pretty entertaining. So
Oh,
that was my
speaking of David, can I
contribution.
share a story about David from the wedding day?
Mhm.
So Hoffman was at the wedding as well with all of us, and I didn't notice it in the moment, but like while my mom was giving a speech, David had texted me in all caps. He goes, "I want to go next," and I'm like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, he was
like
like really into it. I remember this now. It's coming back to me. He was at the table like, I'm going to give a speech. I need to give a
right, you
speech.
guys were at
He
the
was
same
like,
table. So
yeah,
what was he saying?
Oh
Because like
shit.
all I got was the text, and in my mind when I saw the text, I was like, dude, don't you know that this is like a planned thing? Like you should have told me like weeks ago.
I don't know. Impromptu
I was just
speech
like,
could have been
wow, that is the
pretty.
last thing in the world I want to do right now. I'm like,
The
who is this
impromptu
guy?
speech that never was, though. We need to reveal what that
I
speech would
wonder
have
what he
been.
was gonna say. I actually
Yeah.
want to hear what he was gonna say now.
Bonus content.
David was in a very good place. He was having an absolute
Yeah,
blast.
he was thriving.
He was seventh gear before Steven was. He actually helped Steven accelerate to seventh gear.
I heard he undressed me on the dance floor.
Correct. He did.
All right.
He was undressing a few folks.
I hope the photographer got footage of that. I can't wait to
Oh, that's
see
true.
his photos.
That's true. Okay. So for the alfalfa, for me, yeah. So I actually have something crypto related.
Whoa.
I know. I bought ETH.
It's back, baby.
I even bought a little Bitcoin, dude. I'm keeping the ratio.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm keeping the ratio.
That's cool. I respect that.
Yeah, I know. It's starting to become like a thing we don't even talk about anymore. So I'm gonna mention the Bitcoin every once in a while. So I bought mostly ETH. I bought it today before we recorded the podcast at like what it was at 12:50, about an hour and a half ago.
Nice.
And I mean, yeah, come on, like why not? Like
Long
12:50.
term? Come on.
Like, yeah, sure, we might see 800, we might see 400, but like over a couple years here, I'm very happy with 1250. The other thing that is like my next to do sort of alfalfa is actually to get a little bit more. I'm a pretty organized individual in general with the way I categorize things, with how I keep things clean in my portfolio. But one thing I haven't done a good job of is I have too many wallets. And it was just like from some airdrop farming or just generally setting up new wallets to kind of like maintain certain levels of privacy. But that's kind of gotten out of hand. So I want to actually clean that up. I want to consolidate a little bit. And I also want to do a little bit more of like a fun bag. So like I have my forever bags, but actually I want to have some fun with what I just bought today and what I'll be buying over the next, I think, rest of the year. And you know, kind of put my trader, my absolute
Yeah.
amateur
You
trader
want a
hat
DGen
on.
wallet.
I want a DGen wallet, and I haven't really done that. So yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Everybody should have a DGen wallet. That's a good alfalfa, right?
Yeah,
You
just
just like on
small
this
though,
wallet,
like
I do whatever I want. You feed all of your darkest inner
mhm.
urges. You know,
That's right. That's right. So that's what I'm doing.
don't liquidate yourself on DYDX in one trade though.
Dude, so Eric, we haven't talked about this yet. So member of our community, here you go,
Tap me
Steven.
up, thank you.
Yeah, I'm just pouring some wine here. Member of our community, I already gave it away, it's a he who shall not be named, requested to not be named, sent us a case of wine for you for your wedding as a congratulations, and to me for expecting baby in January, a case of Dry Farms wine. So this is like, I remember first hearing about this from Tim Ferriss actually a few years ago, who's very particular about the type of wine that he drinks. It's all organic, no sugar added, designed to be the cleanest, best, world-renowned wines sourced all together through this club that consolidates and picks and handpicks the best and then ships them to people on membership and or in a gift box like we just received. So I had to open one bottle. Eric, there will be plenty more when you get
Dude,
back.
don't
but
drink it all before I get back.
wanted to share with Steven here. And
I appreciate this.
yeah.
By the way, if
Yeah.
you have a 2020 Bordeaux, Eric, I would recommend not opening it. It's very young for a Bordeaux, I think. I think you want to age this bad boy a little bit.
Okay.
They
But
typically
man,
need
what a thoughtful gift, and so much love to our anonymous member.
This is an
for thinking of
incredible
us. It's
gift.
Oh, dude, it's so cool.
This is incredible. A case of wine. So this is
So
Chateau
nice, man.
Jar Bordeaux from France. Do you know anything about this type of wine, Stephen? Would you like to add anything to that?
I'm just saying. Oh, it's actually a little bit of a blend. Okay.
Paradox would have so much to tell us about
All right.
this.
I don't think we're committing too much of a sin drinking it this
Okay.
early, but I think you generally want to wait a little bit.
All right. I mean, it just looked good.
I know
grabbed
we
it.
wanted
That's
to
so.
put it in
That,
our.
I'm blown away by our community at all times, but this really was like, top notch. What a
Oh, I think
what a
it's,
move.
I think it's so cool, dude. When you sent me that photo, I got all fuzzy.
I still
inside.
can't believe it. I honestly thought when he was like, I got something to send you guys, I thought it'd be like a thank you card, maybe like a bottle. It's like 6 or 8 bottles or something. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Wow.
So extremely kind, absolutely unnecessary, but an extremely kind gesture.
Yeah, look at that. No,
So thank you, Anon.
No residual sugar.
Yeah. And how much does that say about the fact this person's like, no, I
Cool.
don't need, I'm not doing this for recognition. I'm doing this to say
Oh wow. Yeah.
congratulations. So
This is what we need, by the way. This wine, no hangover.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
no, because we constantly talk about that. We
Yeah.
rant about that. We cried
Like
about that on
I
the
could drink
alcohol
like
episode.
4 bottles of this. No problem.
That's the idea. We need a membership, actually.
All
Wait a
right.
second. Sponsor.
Let's go.
Yeah. Why not sponsorship?
Okay, Dry Farms.
Dude, Dry farms. That was. Can we
Slide in our
clip that?
DMs.
Should we clip that and send it to them? Like that's some good
That's a
shit.
clip.
That's a clip.
That's a clip.
That's a clip, Sly. I think that's a clip. Right. And a deal closed for wine forever on the pod. That's actually perfect. And we can clip to the stuff when we ranted about wine being shitty and giving hangovers all the time. And
Mhm.
this is why we need you.
All right.
Okay, I'm excited. Steven, let's talk markets.
Oh, yeah. Markets. Forgot about those.
We have an episode.
Yeah, we're doing an episode. That's right. Yeah, so today was FOMC Day, which is now just a monthly or semi-monthly holiday. We all gather around the internets and wait for that number to come out and watch the lines on the chart like go up and down like it was
Up?
wild today. It
Up and
liquidated.
down?
It liquidated everybody today. I was looking at the Nasdaq chart.
Really?
It was just way up and then way down and then way up
we,
again.
We did
and
start
then
the
it, and
day
then it
up
nuked.
in stonks, and then it just reversed hard.
It was crazy. I mean, I think we went up because of because of all the dealer flows for options. I think when
The like unwinding that gamma position that they were exposed to.
Yeah, I think when there's so many put hedges bought that I think when the volatility collapses, like the dealers have to like basically buy to stay neutral, and it drives the price up. But it seems like after that happened, we just kind of went to hell. ETH lost some weak support. It's now kind of in the top of a precarious range, I think, and it does kind of feel like everything is sort of over to me now. I think you feel the same. I mean, I felt this way after the last CPI print.
What's over?
I think any sort of bull hope is over. I was clinging to a bit of a.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, I've been kind of on this thesis since midsummer. It's been fading a little bit, but I liked the idea of a not priced in Goldilocks plus ETH merge plus some sort of like shenanigans, election rally. I liked the risk reward there. I thought there was a lot of upside, and the downside was limited from where I bought. But I think I am out of that trade now. I mean, I made my mind to get out of the trade once that print came out because it was very clear that inflation was going to be a little sticky from what I saw, and the odds of like a Fed pivot anytime soon were basically zero. Today, the market, I think, finally got the memo. You saw farther out on the yield curve, like rates, kind of moving up. The Fed like releases this dot plot where everybody puts like a dot where they think rates are going to be at all points in the future. And there's a lot of dots out there, a lot higher than the market was pricing.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the higher and longer thesis, emphasis on the for longer. I think the market was pricing, even still clinging to a little bit of hope of a pivot, like, early next year or mid next year or something. And I'm not so sure you see any cuts at any point next year at this point, unless something blows up. But if something blows up, you also don't want to be in Ethereum or anything.
Right.
So
no, I actually admire like what you're doing, because I think there's a lot to be learned off of your positioning. One, on the first hand, it's like you were putting a bet on a trade that was like very unpopular, and I agree with you that the risk reward on your trade was heavily in your favor, even if it didn't turn out the way that your thesis, what you were betting on. But like, and then additionally, to know when to be like, this is not right, I'm gonna exit. I'm impressed, man, because that's one of the hardest things for investors to be like, okay, well, when do I change my thesis? And the fact that you were able to do that, it's really cool.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, I'm disappointed with myself because I had a plan to take like heavy profits at like the exact level that ETH hit. And I did the classic thing where in the moment you go, I don't know, actually this looks like it wants to go. And then I gave a lot of that trade back. I mean, I still made like pretty good money from the summer, but I gave a lot of it back that didn't need to be given back. And I was trying not to let it get to me last weekend. It was rough being out there and like not working and watching the market crash was super hard psychologically, especially after I screwed that up in spite of having like the right theory and just executing it badly. So that was rough. But I don't know. I guess you just gotta you take your licks and write. I'm gonna write that down. And I got a little notebook now of like dumb shit that I've done, and I
Yeah.
reference it
Those are
That's smart.
lessons.
from
Yeah, I
time to
like that.
time. Yeah, it's all it's currently all it's all trading related currently. But
Smart,
maybe
smart.
I'll
So
expand to the
I,
life
I've
stuff.
I've been on the other side of the trade, and like I'm now thinking, okay, so I've been short shit stonks and shit tech, in TradFi markets, and like I've been expecting sort of exactly this, and now I'm playing this game of like, okay, well, how ugly does it actually get? How low are we going to ride this thing? And to me, it seems like 3,400 on the S&P is like almost programmed in,
Hmm.
and like we could. I also see a scenario where it's like we break through the pre-COVID highs, and then it gets like real nasty. And I don't know uh, how firmly I believe in that, but I'll probably look to start closing shorts at around that S&P 3,400.
Yeah, I
Tell me
mean
more about today, though.
today,
Yeah, tell me
what
more about
happened?
what not what happened, but what it means to you. What some insights are, how people are feeling versus maybe how you are looking at it. Like, let's have a bit of a discussion around that because I mean, yes, these are becoming like once monthly rituals and holidays, but like, is there more to it? Is there more to it that this is just going on for the more foreseeable future more than we thought it? Is it just taking longer than we thought it might?
It's a weird thing, right? Because we as market participants, we get conditioned with these like sort of recency biases, right? We have very short memories as investors, and we are so anchored to what's happened in the recent past. And like the recent thing for us has been like money printer go burr. He's got no balls. He's gonna pivot. He's gonna pivot. He always pivots. And it it's weird because as an investor, you're never you're taught to say like it's not different this time. Everybody
Yeah.
says it's different this time, and I think it actually is different this time. And I think a lot of people were, maybe thinking it wouldn't be different. But like it's also weird because it seems so obvious what's going to happen that everybody's like, well, it can't be that obvious. There's this the market can't everybody can't all be right like this, right? Um, but there are certain trends where the herd is right and they're right for a long period of time, and that's why it's kind of why they're trends,
Hmm.
because everybody is on the right side of the trade and everybody's feeding into each other. So I think we're on just the opposite side of like what we were on during the last bull run. But yeah, nothing too crazy happened today, right? It was, I
I
mean, Eric
mean,
said this
other
earlier.
than Putin threatening nuclear war again,
Yeah,
see
you're
that?
right. Something else didn't happen today that was kind of crazy. But to be fair, the market didn't really react to that. Like I was
Didn't.
watching everything while that came out, and stuff really barely budged, which I thought was weird because I definitely view that as a one in a whole laundry list of like kind of downside gray swan risks that exist, right? And there's just not a lot of white swan or gray swans to the upside that exists. So it's just kind of a bad,
Hmm.
asymmetric reward period, I think, as an investor. And I don't know, I think today is just like a time of like acceptance for a large swath of the market. Like the core
Yeah.
takeaway from today's presser, I think, was there are a couple of cores. I mean, but the core was like higher for longer, emphasis on the longer. That's the thing that was really not being completely priced in. Um, and Jerome talked pretty directly about like making to want your house go to zero. He was used some direct language
Yeah.
about bringing the cost of shelter down. So and that's because it's such like correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, but I think it's like a huge component of the core metric, right? Which is sort of like the stickiest thing and the most lagging thing that exists right now.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I think, many people were on that side of the trade, but I was throughout the last few months, I was shocked that higher for longer wasn't consensus, and it seemed like today finally priced that in. Um, so now I'm actually starting to believe in sort of like the Steven thesis where it's like, well, maybe we go up from here because like it actually is being priced in, I think, more accurately now. You know, like Powell has reiterated time and time again that they're trying to get inflation down to their 2% target, and finally people are believing him, and it's like, well, maybe now we can go go higher.
I will say, I mean, that's something I've been thinking about. I mean, I try to think about all the options, but there is this idea of the sort of election rally. There's a CPI print in October. There's no FOMC meeting. It's a good chance that that print in October does what I thought the September one would do. And if we sell off and panic a little too much, like actually that could happen in the short run, right? But like,
Dude, you might have just been a month too early. Like I'm thinking that could happen for sure.
it's
Hmm.
entirely possible, and it wouldn't be the first time. But I think one thing as an investor, like for me that I'm doing personally, I mean, we've talked about like it's like you and I were both right and wrong just on different time horizons. And like the time horizon is so important. Like my time horizon was shorter, yours was longer. And on the long time horizon, you were correct and I was wrong. On like the 2 month time horizon, I was like right and you were wrong. So if you don't know what horizon you're on and where your thesis is playing out, you can do totally the wrong thing at the wrong time, and it's so hard to invest because you have to be right and you have to know over what duration you're doing it. But for me personally, like I need to take a step back and zoom out a bit. Like I've been too focused on the short term, and it's like just killing me mentally because markets are really hard over short time horizons, and I think they get easier if you're investing for like a decade, as you probably
I
are.
literally get stressed just thinking about what you think.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, I assume that you aren't changing anything as the passive guy on the basis of anything that happened, right? You're sort of just you're like, this is good long term price. I buy here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to now start to have some fun with the DGen bag on like a weekly time horizon,
Hmm.
for fun. But yeah, beyond that, like in a serious manner, like when we're talking about my outcome of retirement and wealth creation and then therefore preservation, I want nothing to do with this way of approaching it personally.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I don't think about it in that way uh, in terms of my longer term, like, wealth goals.
Do you think there's anything right now that's like not super clear to you in terms of like your investment strategy, or do you feel like pretty honed in on what you need to do?
No, that's a good question. I think everything is really foggy. I think it's extremely difficult to have clear conviction about anything. I think the only real things that I have conviction about, and you have to have them because ultimately, I mean, I have put a good, well, you don't have to have them. You can always reevaluate your decisions and move out of crypto even if you wanted to. Like I think that's a false way of approaching it to say like, well, a lot of my wealth is in crypto or a majority of my portfolio now seems to be in crypto and therefore I need to have high conviction in crypto and I need crypto to win. I think that's a really incorrect way of looking at it. And one of the things that we haven't done yet is do an episode on the bear case for crypto, which I personally am looking forward to doing because in order to have a more sound thesis, I need to feel that I've fully explored and extracted people's expertise and opinions on the external sort of risks that exist for crypto as a whole. And I feel like we're not having that conversation enough. So at times, no, I don't have that strong sense that I know exactly what I want and that I'm continuing to invest in these vehicles and these buckets for the right reasons because I think that we're all too a little too in the weeds on everything. But if I zoom out a bit and I look at it, I go, okay, yeah, I mean, I love ETH. I love Bitcoin and I love some of these like little shit coins and even shit stonks. And together that is something that I believe in a 2 to 3 year time span, I'll be at least where we were in the last bull run. And I'll reevaluate and make decisions based on where we're at that time. But for now, nothing has changed.
Good.
I don't know if
I
that really
love I
answers.
love some
No,
of
it
the
does.
things you
Was
mentioned there, because on one hand, ETH, the fundamentals of ETH are dramatically improved, right? The merge
mm,
happened and it's successful, and that is positive for ETH price in the long term. But then you brought up, these like exogenous risk factors, and that's what I'm really thinking about lately. We just had like a Senate hearing with Gary Gensler, and he mentioned pretty explicitly, at least that's the way I interpreted it, that he views ETH distinctly differently than he views Bitcoin.
yeah,
And like he basically said, Bitcoin is decentralized and ETH is not.
yeah.
And that's getting me thinking. Like this feels to me like the next big thing that's going to be the crypto narrative. We just had the merge pass, and now it's going to be like, well, what about this political risk that it feels like the real battle is about to start here.
And what do you think would happen if it didn't work out for ETH on the regulation side? Like if it
Well, I
just
think about this a
completely,
lot. And you and I talked about it at Hoffman's cabin, like at 2 in the morning, keeping everybody awake that night. But like where my mind goes is, the powers that be, let's call it the incumbents, like the SEC and CFTC, they're kind of in cahoots with the other powers that be, like traditional banking system. And when you seek to disrupt the incumbents, like they're going to fight back,
of course.
and they don't want to give up their power. They don't want to give up their profitability. So it seems to me that when he says like, okay, well, Bitcoin is decentralized, that protocol doesn't change. It's all just like out there in the world and people use it. But ETH has this core team of developers and they're changing the protocol. We just went through a merge, so like they obviously just changed the protocol. Well, that's not decentralized because, they have these developers who are centrally making decisions to change protocol. Well, it seems like ETH is going to have the bullseye on its back when they,
Hmm.
the powers that be, look to fight.
Yeah, you nailed it. And if they do, and when they do, because it appears to be more probable than ever now, how might that affect Ether the asset, like ETH the asset?
Well, I think the first thing is that they're going to label it a security, not a commodity.
Yep.
Um, there's an important amendment to there was like some initiative that was going to regulate crypto in some type of way, and that was going to label basically anyone who's participating as a broker. um this was like from the White House, and three senators, it was like Toomey and Loomis and one other congressperson put an amendment out that said, well, broker dealers are only going to be, um, like exchanges where you actually trade, and those will report their taxable earnings. We want to collect the taxes, and I think that was like a positive move. And I think if I zoom out, really, what I'm seeing is that you have the regulators on one side, and then you have our elected officials on the other hand. And these elected officials are starting to recognize that crypto participants have a lot of power. Like we are large in number, we have money, we are vocal, and we are oftentimes single issue voters. So their self-interest is to get reelected and pander to their constituency, which is in more and more number becoming crypto people. I think there's something like 50 million uh, citizens in the United States who hold crypto.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So I think the our elected officials are now starting to fight back against Gensler. I'm seeing that battle also start to evolve.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
I mean, this isn't so different from like phenomena we observe in the traditional finance or startup world or however you want to call it, right? Like you see very often that, like, I think Uber is a good example of this. You get a company that's they do something sort of crazy and ultra destructive, and they basically just flaunt the government and they flaunt regulation. And they just try to get really big and embedded really quickly, and then use like there's the sort of network effect of customers and the fact that they like the product to then nestle into some sort of regulatory framework that they work with, and that sort of benefits them as a company. And I think crypto is hitting that point now where it's doing the same thing. Like ETH was a cute little token before, and Bitcoin was this little cute coin before, and it didn't affect anything. But then it grew very rapidly, got this huge network of users, and ETH especially has gotten itself so entangled in so many things, but Bitcoin as well, right? Um, that it gets to the point where these things are too tangled up in existing financial infrastructure, existing corporate infrastructure to just simply cast them aside and say like, no, we're going to ban it. So all this politics starts happening. And now that we're in the bear market and resources are scarce, right? Number isn't just going up. There's not infinite abundance and wealth for everybody anymore. It does, you are getting the sense that we're devolving into this. I don't want to say devolving, but we're entering this era of like intense politicking. And the two coins that are really duking it out are ETH and BTC. Like we mentioned earlier, it's kind of like it's like a game of coins, right? And both of these coins and both of these, their communities, they're almost pursuing different strategies. And it's really interesting to me because in a lot of instances there's this like weird flip-flop between the coins, right? Like for example, like Bitcoin is, I would still say to this day, in present day, like the most decentralized, censorship resistant currency that exists. And we could argue that point. And I don't know that that will persist into the near future. I think ETH is better situated for that. But for today, we can make that claim. But the irony of that is because of the design of Bitcoin, it is completely incapable of existing without like a centralized exchange. Like, how do you trade Bitcoin without a Coinbase? Like, it can't exist. So there's this weird thing going on where, yeah, it's the most decentralized, but it actually depends on this very financial legal infrastructure to exist. And then ETH is like the reverse. Like, you could say, yeah, it's more centralized, blah blah blah, at all these levels, but it actually has a mechanism for existing in its own ecosystem, completely off the grid from the government. So to an extent, like both these communities they're talking past each other for a little bit. Like I think Bitcoiners especially seem to not, I don't know if they're not aware of this fact or not talking about it, right? And this is the puzzling thing. This is also the weird thing to me about Bitcoin is that like to me, Bitcoin's best chance of survival is its ability to engage in some sort of like regulatory or institutional capture, right? Like Bitcoin's best chance of survival to me is that like the government says it's cool and ETH is not, or like huge banks start putting it on their books and like selling it to their clients. Cause like otherwise, like why does it exist? It's like either that happens or there's some like cypherpunk dystopia that plays out in like 70 years in the future, like future generations discover this thing called Bitcoin and oh, it was the thing we needed all along. But like you and I are long since dead and gone and the world's kind of like gone to hell, right? Like
You're saying there's no use for it outside of those examples?
I'm not saying there's like a use
Or
for it. I just think it's like it inherently doesn't have like monetary utility or any sort of like utility, right? Like all of the things it said it wanted to do, it hasn't really done. And like there are elements of the biggest blow I think to crypto is like the existence of like stable coins, right? And the second stable coins become a thing that exists on a sufficiently decentralized network, however you want to define that, right? It's very hard to make the argument that somebody in like Argentina wants to own Bitcoin, this like 100 vol asset that like goes down negative 90% instead of just owning crypto dollars, right? And I expect that to be the case. Like if we believe in dollar milkshake playing out, for example, you want to just own dollars. You don't want to own Bitcoin during that. Maybe you want to buy Bitcoin at the end of that, but you don't want to own it during that, right? And so in the meantime, like what is it good for? It's sort of like a digital commodity.
But it's a unifier. It's a unifier across countries that like you don't really see that playing out with any. First of all, you said there's no stable coin that's sufficiently decentralized.
Yeah.
And then secondly, like no one really is doing that. No one is doing cross-border stable coin transactions to send money to friends and family and
Oh, people are definitely
employees.
doing
I mean,
that.
I know they're doing it, but it's not what's driving the adoption. You know,
Of what?
of crypto as a whole. Like first entry point to crypto as a whole for people is typically Bitcoin. They go, oh, this is interesting, and I can send this to people. I can send this to my employees in Peru, and that's really cool. I can receive it as a contractor when I'm in Lebanon or whatever. That's their entry point. Then they might go, wait a second, this is super volatile. Like I just lost 25% of my Bitcoin value, and it might serve as okay. The next step might be, well, what is a more stable form of currency? Oh, stable coins. What are those? So like I just don't see it going away. I think for me,
Oh, I don't see it going
but you
away.
kind of made it sound like it would become irrelevant
I
and become really almost like negligible.
I
That's the
think
way I
it's
took
going
what you
to
said.
be niche. Look, I sort of agree with Eric Wall on this point, which is that like I do think Ethereum is clearly superior to Bitcoin. However, in a world in which Bitcoin ceases to exist, like I think there's a lot of areas in life, right, where you need balance. You need like the yin and the yang. And without that yin and yang, like the system kind of goes off the rails and becomes unstable in one direction or the other. I think it's great that we have proof of stake and proof of work, and we have a coin trying to do really like grandiose things in a coin that's trying to just be like incredibly stable and like, anarchy money.
Yeah.
And I think the world wouldn't be good without them. But much in the same way that like Google is way more relevant to our lives than gold,
Yeah.
I also see that being the future of crypto. Like, I don't want
I
the
don't
world to
disagree
have
with
no
any of
gold,
that.
you know?
Yeah. I can't disagree with any of that.
Can I jump in, you guys?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Okay, so I agree with everything you're saying, and I think like you're right that Bitcoin is not the medium of exchange.
Yeah.
You'll have a stable coin. Sorry, I got an echo. I think the stable coin doesn't have to be decentralized. This can be a CBDC. Like we can all use digital dollars that's issued by the Fed on a blockchain.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. It doesn't have to be sufficiently decentralized
And
for
I
it.
do
That's a good
think that
point.
like
Yeah.
with that, there's even a lot of risks. So like, the Fed can program that money to only be used in X, Y, and Z use
Yeah.
cases. That's very scary. I think when I'm using the Game of Thrones analogy, I step back and I say like, so who are the real participants? I don't know if you guys watch Game of Thrones, but I was like addicted to it.
No.
And I think like
Big fan, except
the
of
big
the
I
ending.
am
players are
that
going to be,
asshole who has not watched.
Oh,
yeah, you haven't watched
I know.
Armand, but you should. It's so good. But
I heard it
when I'm
resurrected
looking at it,
itself.
I see like the big houses are going to be like ETH, Bitcoin, and then the incumbents, meaning
Yeah.
like the Fed and Gensler, and those guys are going to fight with their own armies. Like they're essentially backed digital currency, or their CBDCs, and um, I think that's the war. And the question I have for both of you is that in Game of Thrones, there's like a famous quote from the character Cersei Lannister. She says, "In the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die." And I'm wondering if that's true with crypto as well. Like, is there going to be a winner take all or a winner take most?
Absolutely not, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I think ETH and my prediction for the future is that
For-
ETH wins this battle and becomes like the largest.
There can
by
only be one
far.
number one.
Yeah, I think
But-
Bitcoin becomes maybe not even the second biggest currency, but it continues to exist
Yes.
because it does fulfill a use case. I just think the use case is way more niche and specific than Bitcoiners bring it out to be. I think in the Game of Thrones analogy, like I think Bitcoin is Daenerys. I think it's sort of like this well-meaning thing, or maybe it's evil. I don't know. Maybe it's actually controlled by the CIA, but like well-meaning thing that sort of embarks on this journey where it becomes this sort of almost like fascistic dictator that seeks to just take down all opposition because it believes that its vision is truly the correct one, and then everybody else must be vanquished. But they're doing it for the good of the world. All you must
That's
like
so
burn in
good.
fire because it's for the good of the world, right? And like that's kind of the vibe I get from Bitcoin these
I
days,
mean,
which
yeah,
I'm
all of
not
this
down
to
with.
me, I like it and I agree with all of that. I just think that it's more than like a negligible part of a person's portfolio. For the same reason you have a go bag in case shit hits the fan and you put gold tokens in it, or you have a safe somewhere that people don't know about. Why do that? You just have Bitcoin. And I think that a lot of people will continue to kind of like follow that way of thinking and ideology that in case shit hits the fan in their lifetime, and especially in this decade. I mean, look at this fucking decade, man. Look at what is happening every single day. I mean, today we had a fucking another nuclear threat. We have Iran potentially going through, hopefully, God, please, a revolution. Like, there's just so many
Oh
things
man.
constantly happening. And it's just like, we haven't even had the election in the US yet. I mean, it's going to be absolutely nuts. And so, what I think that does, even if the asset itself never fully um, becomes like utilized as a means of transfer and exchange, is that it's an asset and it continues to gain value over time and accrue value over time, and it becomes more scarce over time. And people like that, and there's value in that. And I'm not like a Bitcoin maxi or bull, but as someone who is a maxi of nothing, I can clearly understand and see the value of this as an asset. And I can see that ETH deserves to be, and if it continues to perform and play out everything that it is attempting to do and all of the upgrades that it needs to make to its infrastructure, clearly the number one asset, clearly the highest utility, clearly the most in every way. It's just a better asset, more useful. It is the infrastructure of the entire modern internet. I mean, there's so many intricacies to what it like has done already in this extremely early stage. I can only imagine what happens, and none of that is going to happen for Bitcoin. None of that. It's not going to do any of those things. So I don't know what number Bitcoin becomes, whether it's number 5 or number 10, but I don't think, to your question, Eric, it's winner take all. I think that there's room for all of these. But because people like violence and people want competition and people want to win, in order to be number one, they take on a winner take all mentality, which I guess makes sense.
I mean, I mostly agree with what you said. And people who want to buy crypto who aren't like active, right? I still tell them all to buy Bitcoin because
What
like
else would they buy?
you buy, I don't know, you buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And you
Bitcoin,
just go
Ethereum,
away,
and
right?
some, yeah,
My
some
my
stable coins. Yeah.
my problem with Bitcoin that I just can't mentally get around is that it sort of just has one thesis to become like world money, right? And I like investing is like it's like path dependent, right? It matters how you get there. I don't see a path to that happening where it first doesn't like just almost go to zero first. So I kind of feel like if Bitcoin is right, like as long as I just have stable coins sitting somewhere, then I can ultimately just buy it when the time comes, like at like peak, like just destruction and make that play. And I just don't get owning an asset that success and its only success depends on the world first going to hell first, at which point all of these things trend almost to
I
zero.
like the way you think, Steven, and I think I admire that you would be in a position where you could make that move and make that purchase. But I think that most people, if they saw the world go to shit and Bitcoin crash to that level that you're describing, would not make that buy.
Yeah,
They would be terrified.
that's fair.
They would not see it coming back. They'd go, it's over. That's how we all feel when there's markets crashing. It's like, it's over. That's it. It takes a lot to have that strength of mentality to buy when there's no hope for the future.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
But I
Well,
hope you make that trade.
we're about at our limit, so I just want to see if Eric has anything to bring us home.
No, you guys, this was a great conversation.
All
And
right, perfect. I mean, I could talk about. I love this topic.
Yeah,
Talk about it
this flew
forever, but
by.
in the spirit of brevity, I
Flew by.
I think we'll call it there.
What I didn't say in the beginning of the episode, I'll mention now and maybe do it more properly at the beginning of the next episode. We love you guys. Make sure you're following us on Twitter, not just the Alfalfa Pod account, but our individual accounts as well. Steven's been going kind of viral lately. He's becoming a bit of a Twitter influencer. So
Oh,
give
just
Steven and
so
Eric
much influence.
a Nick
Got
a
30
follow.
likes on a tweet the other day.
I don't know what I'm doing on Twitter. I just repost these guys and occasionally, things I find inspiring, but I'm pretty active on Instagram if you want to follow me there. And that's it. Peace. Until next time.